it's me again with your Max podcast now. Literally 3 minutes ago, as I was about to start recording this week's episode, I just learned of the resignation of Steve Jobs. It's apparently been reported by the Huffington Post. Steve has been assigned the duties of chairman, and Tim Cook will take over CEO. His letter of resignation was short and succinct. I have always said if there ever came a day when I could no longer meet my duties and expectations as Apple's CEO, I would be the first to let you know. Unfortunately, that day has come. I hereby resign as CEO of Apple and would like to serve, if the board sees fit, as chairman of the board, director, and Apple employee. As far as my successor goes, I strongly recommend that we execute our succession plan and name Tim Cook as CEO of Apple. I believe Apple's brightest, most innovative days are ahead of it, and I look forward to watching and contributing to its success in a new role. I have made some of my best friends of my life at Apple, and I thank you all for the many years of being able to work alongside you. Steve. From a business perspective, what does this mean about Apple moving forward? Well, nothing really. I mean, we've been operating under the same setup now for several years, ever since Steve got sick. And actually, I'm not too surprised that he came out and did this, because everybody was questioning why did he come up to present Lion himself. And I think it's because Lion was the fruition of his dreams. He started that with Next, and he eventually just rolled everything into what he wanted. And now we've got this giant empire. As far as Wall Street's concerned, there's going to be a lot of stupid stuff being said, and the stock is going to go down. But if you're smart, you'll buy it when it hits low, because it'll go back up, because as long as Samsung and Nokia are still, twiddling their thumbs, Apple will always be there. And make no mistake, Steve put all the right people in place. As you can hear from his resignation note, the succession plan was already in place. This has all been thought out, so there's nothing to worry about. Steve, be well. But even with Steve leaving, life goes on. With consumers embracing a rapid shift away from traditional computers and towards a growing array of mobile devices, Mac rumors suggest that Apple may be possibly preparing to introduce a distinct family next generation Mac designs unlike anything seen to date. Citing their anonymous source within the Cupertino-based company's Asian supply chain, Makotakara JP, which has a mixed track record in predicting Apple's future product directions, claims Apple, with the help of its component suppliers, is gearing up to introduce Macs that are, quote, absolutely different from current products, end quote, possibly by the end of this year. The brief report goes on to state that the designs of the new Macs mark such a departure from Apple's existing offerings that they could be brought to market under a new brand or product name altogether. Meanwhile, Cult of Mac's Mike Elgin believes that Apple is through creating new devices and will continue to coast on the product categories they currently have. He's been hearing a lot of talk recently about how Apple will switch the Mac platform to ARM. Could Apple be working on an ARM-powered MacBook? Well, he's skeptical, but there just aren't any ARM chips right now that are powerful enough to run OS X. In fact, there aren't even any 64-bit ARM chips yet, and when there are, it's uncertain whether or not there will be any advantages over Intel's existing x86 CPUs when it comes to power management. Not to mention that every single app would need to be reprogrammed to run on ARM processors. Ouch. My 2 cents? I think that there's going to be a melding of the Mac Mini and the Mac Pro. You could have in effect a mini tower, which I know other people have mentioned, but it would be with Thunderbolt, so that you could attach external chassis to put in your new graphics cards or what have you. I mean, it makes a lot of sense if you think about it. It could make for a very easily configurable design with amazing amounts of power. Think SSDs with 16 gigabytes of RAM and up, and it would be relatively affordable. Now, I prayed for the 10th Mac Mini, and that came to pass. So it's time for my new wish. And there is a Santa Claus, isn't there, Virginia? And here's something that'll show you the effect Steve has had on computing. Apple mobile products have now become somewhat mainstream at retail locations around the country. For example, Lowe's announced last week that it was rolling out 42,000 handheld devices in the US and Canada. That closely follows announcements by Home Depot, Nordstrom, and Urban Outfitters. Some of the retailers aren't saying which devices are being deployed, but for the most part they are using Apple products, iPhones, iPads, or iPod Touches. And while the devices may eventually be used to accept payments, many of them are starting off as tools for salespeople to look up answers or to check on product inventory availability. And this movement is not limited to brick and mortar stores. If you take a trip using British Airways, you'll notice a significant improvement in efficiency and customer service. The cabin crews are now using the iPad 2 to streamline several boarding processes and in-cabin service in general. The crew has access to each customer's preferences and travel arrangements. A seating chart displays where each passenger is seated, who their traveling companions are, their executive club stature, and special meal requirements. The in-flight iPads also include flight timetables, safety manuals, customer service updates, and increased communicative abilities between ground crew and flight crew to resolve any issues while airborne. But British Airways is hardly a renegade. About 11,000 pilots at United Continental have begun receiving iPads, converting to paperless cockpits. The iPads replace paper flight manuals and navigational charts, which should improve safety and efficiency because pilots will no longer have to thumb through thousands of sheets of paper to find what they need during a flight. Furthermore, the move saves 16 million sheets of paper and 325,000 gallons in fuel because of the lighter weight. Of course, Alaskan Airways has been doing all this for some time now, and now both Iceland's Iceland Express and Australian airline Jetstar have announced that they will trial in-flight entertainment using Apple's iPad. But it's not just large retailers taking advantage of the iPad's unique business capabilities. Small stores are also jumping on the mobile bandwagon. As an example, a small winery in eastern Washington state has mounted one on a mechanical arm for point-of-sale use. And the list keeps growing, according to South Plainfield, New Jersey-based Global Bay, a company that develops mobile software for the retail environment. It has announced that it is helping Pacific Sunwear, a retailer known for surfer-style apparel, to roll out iPads in 300 stores with plans for 500 to 600 more by next year. Global Bay CEO Sandeep Bhanot said he's been in the business of mobile retail solutions for a long time, but it is, quote, the Apple line of products that has reinvigorated the market and is bringing it, mobile business devices, to the mass market, end quote. It's a shame they didn't have these when I was a paper boy. Truth triumphs fiction! Today we visit a very special place known as Michael Del Hell. You may remember visiting Michael Del Hell, late 90s, when he said when Steve Jobs rejoined Apple, quote, what would I do? I'd shut it down and give the money back to the shareholders, end quote. Well, Michael's been at it again. Jim Dalrymple of The Loop points out, when you're the CEO of a company and something happens to your competitor, you should show some class, or at the very least, keep your mouth shut. Of course, Michael Dell is not known for his class. So, when HP decided to get out of the consumer market, instead of saying something stupid, why not tweet something stupid? Or better yet, let's tweet several stupid things like these. HP, PC business 100% committed to ownership change to new unknown owners with unknown strategy or an unknown time frame. Or, goodbye HP, sorry you don't want to be in PCs anymore, but we do more than ever. How would you say goodbye to HP? Or, HP, They are calling it a separation, but it feels like a divorce. And if HP spins off their PC business, maybe they will call it compact. Oh, Mike, you're a classy guy.
Hi, I'm Chuck Joyner. As you watch this, we now live in an era where Steve Jobs is not CEO of Apple. He has stepped down and he will be acting as chairman of the board of Apple for an undetermined period of time, but the day-to-day operations have been turned over to Tim Cook. There's been a great deal of coverage of this event, and unfortunately, a lot of it seems like a goodbye, an end. And I have to confess that part of the Mac jury we talked about the night of the resignation sort of felt that way too. On a further reflection, though, what I think we need to remember is that of all the things that Steve Jobs and Apple have created, the Apple of 2011 may be the greatest. The products have all been amazing, but the company he has brought together, the teams he has brought together, yes, he's been the one to shepherd them, but they have been the driving force here. Steve has told them what to do and has been the one that said, no, that's not good enough. But they are the ones with the raw talent. Taking nothing away from Steve and his place in this ecosystem, I do think it's a mistake, though, to not recognize just how strong the company is. The standard line is how strong the DNA is. That's absolutely true. And I think that the people, including myself for a little while, that were looking at this as the end of an era and, with a lot of downside potential, really need to step back, take another look, and realize that Apple is at the top of the heap for a lot of good reasons because of a lot of great people. And there's no reason they can't continue to do it. So I personally am looking forward to a bright future with Apple and all the enhancements of the existing products, new products we don't even know about. And I hope you will be too. I'm Chuck Joyner. That's what I think. See you next time.
Well, boys and girls, much to your obvious dismay, I have returned to the magic Apple Kingdom. And at a very, very strange time, isn't it? I mean, HP and Steve and all these things happening is weird. Got my health sort of back on track. So what we're going to do for now is one show a week. We'll do the Op-Ed Fridays, all right? And I'd like to thank Chuck Joyner for appearing as our first op-ed guest upon our return. I'd like to thank Chuck, but never mind, that's an old joke. Okay, so until we meet again next week, download, double-click, drop out. And now a special orchestral piece that was commissioned by Samsung Electronics.